Hello everyone. Just take this off. Is my hair okay? Hello everyone, and thank you for coming today. Before we begin, I want to thank Dr. and Mrs. Giese, the members of the Board of Trustees, and all those individuals who work day in and day out at Mount Union who have helped us get here today. I would also be remiss if I did not thank Mr. Andrew Hawkins, my high school superintendent, who made me promise that if I were to ever give a speech as president, I needed to mention him for his influential life advice. So I'm a man of my word, and thank you, Mr. Hawkins. When I was a child, my mother loved to chop firewood. Now, I don't know if any of you have chopped firewood before, but it's not exactly the type of activity that can be categorized as fun. You get sweaty, dirty, and the occasional splinter. If you don't like bugs, bees, or a wood chip in an awkward place, I'd have to recommend you avoid this activity. However, even in the madness of splitting firewood, wiping sweat, and swinging an axe, there is a sense of order. Every piece of wood, once split, fits onto the wood pile as though it was meant to be there from the beginning. It doesn't matter whether the log had knots in it or if it was a funny shape. We had faith that as long as we split it, it would find a place on the pile. As I look at our time here at Mount Union, I have met some of the most interesting pieces of wood in my life. However, at the end of these 4 years and looking at you all today, I see that we've all found our place in the Mount Union pile, building a strong and connected family. However, our educational journey didn't start with Mount Union. No, for many of us it started with preschool and kindergarten around 1995. At that time, we were less concerned with Tom Hanks winning an Oscar for his role in Forrest Gump, or that Art Modell almost moved the Browns to Baltimore. Instead, we focused on shapes, colors, and nap time. A moment of silence for the wonder that is nap time. Thank you. It was here that we began the first of many years of learning. However, my childhood education was different from most. I was homeschooled by my mother up and through almost the entirety of high school. We decided to do homeschooling because my father worked afternoon shifts and my parents wanted to make sure that we had as much time as possible together as a family. This homeschool setup did lead to a very interesting daily schedule. I would wake up around 9 a.m. and slowly greet the day, do chores on the farm, eat some Captain Crunch, a waffle, maybe a muffin or two, some orange juice, fry up some eggs, and get some bacon out if I was still hungry. Then around 2:30, when most of you were coming back from school, my dad would leave for the day and we would begin the school day. We would finally end around 11:30 p.m. when my father got home from work, and then proceeded to stay up until about 1:30 a.m. watching sitcoms like Frasier, The West Wing, and Friends, before going to bed and doing it all over again. Ironically, the schedule from homeschool left me well prepared for the schedule I would have in college. But what I liked most about homeschooling was that it helped instill a drive for constant learning. My mother taught me to look at learning not as a school year to school year type of endeavor, but as one that was day to day, 365 days a year. For her, learning never stopped. I'll give you a gross example. I mentioned I grew up on a farm, and on this farm we had the cutest array of animals. We had goats, which I liked. We had sheep, which were stupid. We had rabbits, chickens, pigeons, and a small garden. Now, we not only ate the food that we grew from the garden, but we would also eat some of the animals, normal farm thing to do. But the less normal part involved me learning the reproductive system by looking at one inside a chicken. My mother would make it a hands-on anatomy lab, and this was my life. But despite that slightly traumatic experience and my fear of eggs for several years afterwards, I would just decline the eggs when they asked me if I wanted any. I think this story illustrates that learning can happen even in the most odd and unexpected places. As we get ready to leave today, we need to hold tight to the ideology of being a lifelong learner. The diplomas we receive today signify a milestone, not a finish line. I don't know what the next step is for many of us, but I can promise you that the years of momentum we have, the years of learning how to learn, the years of working with individuals who may frame their entire beliefs differently than us, that is the momentum, coupled with a passion for learning, that is going to help carry us through the difficult times ahead. And there will be difficult times ahead. Some of us have already gone through difficult times. I went through a particularly difficult time right before the start of this past senior year. It's sad for me today because as I stand here talking about the importance of being a lifelong learner, the woman who taught me this and made it such an important aspect of life isn't here. Last year, as some of you know, my mother passed away suddenly, and it kills me that she isn't here to see the completion of something we worked so hard to achieve. My mother passed away 4 days after I proposed to my fiance, which meant I went from the absolute highest moment of my life to one of the absolute darkest. It's only now, almost a year later, that I'm able to look past the grief. And you want to know the remarkable thing? Even in her death, the memory of my mother is still teaching me. Life is unpredictable. Today we feel like we are just now beginning our lives as adults. And we are, and we should be happy about that. But classmates, we have already lived at least 20 years, 2 decades back to back. If we're lucky, according to the World Bank, we have an average of 60 years left. But we're not promised those. We're not even promised tomorrow. I don't tell you this to make you sad or scared. I'm telling you this because my mother would say, we need to plan for tomorrow, but live for today. Help the person in need today. Do the hard thing on your to-do list today. Forgive people today. And hug your parents today. While we are on the topic of parents, I want to wish a very happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there tomorrow. And a special happy Mother's Day to my future mother-in-law, who, although she could never replace my mother, has been an absolute blessing in my life. And I look forward to when our families become one when I marry my fiance in July. But looking forward to July and the future in general, the last thing I want to talk about is this. Classmates, we are about to enter a world where 20-something-year-olds most of the time act like children. And during our first year as fresh graduates, we are the age group most at risk for unintentionally becoming just that. We are going to be learning as we go what it means to be an adult out of college. But when you have questions, don't get sucked into letting the vocal minority of society be the ones to give you the answers. Our millennial generation is often painted as being careless, irresponsible, and self-centered, but we know that's not the case. I'm telling us this because I want to reaffirm that being an adult, being men and women, doesn't mean that we have to give up our childlike wonder or young at heart attitude. I feasted on Eggo waffles in my underwear this morning listening to the Disney Frozen soundtrack, and here I am now giving the presidential commencement address. Do you want to build a snowman? What adulthood does mean is that we are now entering a stage of life where we are now solely responsible for ourselves. Contrary to much of society's ideology, this responsibility should be celebrated. Remember how freeing it was to come to college from high school and have near complete control over the way you spent your time and schedule. Friends, this next stage of adulthood is equally as freeing, and we get to start today. Reinvent yourselves, pursue the things you love, and do not let this opportunity pass you by quietly. So be loud, and as the doors open up here today, and we begin the next 4 years of our lives, we should happily and joyfully welcome the new responsibility and freedom of adulthood. Remember to never stop learning. You can be a student without attending school. And plan for tomorrow, but live for today. Be mindful of our future, but do not forget the important things. Family, forgiveness, love, things that shouldn't wait even another single day to be done. I miss my mother incredibly much, and with her memory on my mind, I want to leave you with this thought. A small, dedicated group of individuals can literally change the world, and looking back through history, that's all that ever has. Thank you.